come to you on this fine 22nd of January, 2025. Can you believe it's the 22nd of January? My goodness, almost 1/12 of the month. No, 1/12 of the year is gone in another 9 days. Unbelievable. We just started this year. It's already the end of January, practically. No. So it is the third day now, beginning of the Trump presidency. Okay? It's after midnight on the 22nd of January. So he started his presidency on the 20th. And this is the third day. Going to be technical about it? Sure. He started at noon on the 20th. Well, that's how it goes. The 20th was still his first day as president, wasn't it? He didn't have a full day then. He had a half a day. Well, there you go. Life is full of it, but that's all right. At the end of his term, he gets a half a day to wrap it up. So for all practical matters, this is his third day. Third calendar date, in any case, since becoming president of the United States again. And guess what's happening? Oh, there's still war in Ukraine and Russia. Now, I know those of you who are just small-minded or just will believe anything that a liar will tell you, even if he lies to your face and says, I'm lying to your face, right? And if he says to you, I'm grifting you with my meme coin, or I'm selling you garbage steaks, or I'm selling you fake Trump University degrees, or I'm selling you horrible real estate that I'm marking up because I put my name on the building, or whatever it is, I know there's a lot of you who will believe whatever he says. Okay, now, by the way, I am someone who said, when he made those NFTs, I said, you can laugh at it all you want. And yes, there's certainly a grift element to it, but you watch, there will be other politicians who follow his lead about this. And sure enough, we've already seen it, and there will be more. Politicians who follow in the footsteps of not just NFTs, but meme coins, and not just politicians. In fact, one of the guys who was singing him praises, literally, at his inauguration, some Baptist minister, I think he was, or pastor or whatever, some Christian fellow who gave a rousing speech, basically reading Martin Luther King's speech on Martin Luther King Day. So, you know, there was an element of appropriateness to it, but also an element of strange, because like Martin Luther King was not a Republican, and it was the Republicans at the time. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, Martin Luther King remembered at the inauguration by a minister or priest or pastor or whatever. Sorry, I don't remember your title, sir. Very eloquent, or something eloquent. He was able to perform with great energy and really give a rousing kind of speech to people looking on. And then he left the chamber and into whatever room he went into, literally still dressed in the same outfit, wearing the same suit, the same tie, same hair, everything, the whole deal. Like, he had clearly just stepped off the stage, closed the door behind him, and said, and now I gotta tell you people to buy my meme coin. I'm not even kidding, that's what he said. He was begging people, his followers, to go buy his meme coin. Now listen, I got nothing against meme coins per se, okay? If they have no purpose, whatever, if you want to have fun throwing money into a hole, you can't fix stupid, right? Like, there are meme coins that actually do have a purpose, beyond just fun. Many of them don't. There are some that say they have a purpose without actually demonstrating anything. Hello, I see you. There are some that say they have a value beyond just the utility, of the basic utility of trading it. You know, whatever, maybe not, who knows. Depends on the coin, I guess, depends on the project, really. But when a pastor has just finished singing the praises of the incoming president, turns around literally from the stage, walks into some cloakroom, closes the door behind them and says, "And now, my dear beloved followers, please go and buy my meme coin." Not 12 hours after Melania launched her meme coin, not 24 hours after her husband Donald launched his meme coin. I mean, I don't want to say that we are in a little bit of meme coin heaven right here, but it sure seems like grift land to me, right? Where the land is ripe for growing the grift. And I say that, again, as a person who is fond of the coins of the meme. Right? I do like the memes. I do make the memes. I've been making many memes for many, many, many years before anyone called them memes, right? Before Hawkins and Dawkins and all the other Hawkins even laid claim to that name. Do you remember who invented the name meme? And do you know that meme is a French word? It's meme, and it means the same. It means same, right? Like la même chose, the same thing. That's where the word comes from. A cultural meme is a meme, not a meme. We only say meme just like because of mass adoption of the word into a language spoken by cultural ignoramus who refuse to pronounce things correctly because they don't want to show that they might know a thing. Right? To them, being stupid is a mark of intelligence. Right? And I don't mean that as a joke. I mean that entirely literally. Right? Western civilization, the more advanced it is, the more a badge of honor it is to show how dumb you can be and still survive in such a society. It sounds retarded because it is. Right? Oh, don't say the R word. No, I'll say the R word. Retarded is when you are held back. Retardé. Right? You are held late. You are made late. Later, you are catching up later than should be to the actual reality that is, to the events, the current events, the current information, the current intelligence, whatever it might be. So anyway, back to my original topic of this video. We are now on day 3 of the Trump presidency, and the wars still rage. By the way, just so we're clear, yeah? Even though on day -1 of his presidency, a ceasefire, quote unquote, went into effect between Israel and the Gaza Strip, there is not a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Let's be very clear. Yesterday in Jenin, a town in Judea and Samaria, if you know which one it is, write in the comments. Is Jenin in Judea or Samaria? Go ahead, look that up if you don't know. Place I've been to many times back in the day, when you could still go there safely without having to be part of a military unit. Now it's basically a hive for terrorists. And there are a lot of Hamas people there. And yesterday, Israel used air power to pound a lot of those terrorists into oblivion, which is just to demonstrate that there is not a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. So don't think for 1 second that that is the case, because there isn't. Israel is still fighting against Hamas. It just happens to be fighting them in Judea and Samaria, for the most part. Hey, buddy. And that is because Hamas still continues to operate in Judea and Samaria and still plans and launches attacks against Israel on a more than daily basis, in case you're not aware. Right? There are public websites where you can see how often the Palestinian terrorist groups of various factions attempt to attack Israel. And it is more than once a day. It is, in fact, multiple times a day, on average, 2, 3, 4 times a day, on a quiet day. And on a day when they say this will be a day of rage and all that other garbage, it is not uncommon to see 10, 15, 20 attacks thrown at Israel on a typical day. You know, you might think, oh my God, 20 terrorist attacks. It's catastrophe. Yeah, here we call it Tuesday. Unfortunately, you know, it's just another day, because that is who we're dealing with when it comes to these terrorist scum. What am I doing right now? I am walking, Angelica. With respect to you too. All right, so we all want peace, right? The good people. There are some people who definitely don't want peace, right? There are some people for whom that is like the last thing in the world that they want. Right? What they want is to see more violence, more bloodshed, more hostages, more terrible things done to innocent people, and that is their goal. Right? People who don't want that, people who want peace, I want peace, realize, you know, some people who realize it's hard to have peace with people who are sworn to destroy you and who have taken action to do so and continue to take action to do so every moment of the day, every day. Right? Like, Hamas launched this war on October 7th, 2023. Just as a quick example. And they've had every opportunity since then to just release the hostages, lay down their weapons, and walk away from power. They don't want to do that. They know they cannot win this fight kinetically. They know the only quote-unquote victory they could ever get is in the realm of public relations. They know that. That's why they do what they do. That's why they hide behind women and children, right? When they shoot from behind women and children, because they're hoping that the women and children will die for the body count, so they can show on TV dead women and children and say, the Israeli occupiers did this. No, you were hiding behind women and children, and a soldier shot back at you and unfortunately hit a woman or a child or both because you were hiding behind them. Right? And they may not have even seen the woman or the child. They literally saw you shooting your gun. And whatever they shot at you, and one of the bullets went stray and hit them. And there are policies, by the way, if the soldiers see the woman or the child, they're not actually supposed to shoot back if they know that there's a terrorist hiding behind them. Just so you know, there's a protocol for that. I trained for it. Every single soldier in the army trains for it. Right? You're not supposed to shoot at people hiding behind innocent human shields. Right? Now, does it happen? Yeah, absolutely it happens. Does it also happen that bombs get dropped onto places where there are innocent civilians hiding terrorists because the terrorists are using them as shields? Absolutely it happens. Is there a protocol in place for that not to happen? Yes. Every time Israel drops a bomb from an airplane or a helicopter or shoots from a tank, there are about 3 or 4 layers of lawyers involved. I'm not even joking. There are literally lawyers who work for and with the military who review every single act of firing ordnance, every planned act of firing ordnance before it happens. And they either approve or do not approve of these actions. If they do not approve, the military basically cannot take that action, right, unless it believes it's in dire straits and has no choice and will defend itself in court later, being prosecuted by military advocates who will prosecute them. So there literally are rules of combat and engagement in Israel that govern every single action like you would not believe. Why is that? Because Israel does not want to harm civilians. It's one of the most, if not the most, judicious militaries in the world, like by far. It's not close, right? Yes, I know the Americans have an amazing JAG Corps, right? Judge Advocate General Group, right? The attorneys of the military of the United States. They are amazing in many respects. They are absolutely incredible force of lawyers, military attorneys, right? They absolutely are. But does that mean that Israel's force is any less good? No, actually, Israel's military is extremely litigious, like really extremely litigious, probably too much, in my opinion. Too litigious than not litigious enough, right? I'd rather that they do things the right way than just blasé, we're just going to shoot here and not care about the consequences, right? No, I'd rather they do care about the consequences, even if that is perpetually annoying to people who just want to see Israel win the bloody wars and just use whatever means at its disposal that it has. But Israel does not do that because Israel does actually care, for better or for worse, about the visual optics and, more importantly, about the legality and the justice of using the forces at its disposal. Anyway, that's one thing. The other thing is, again, like I said, Trump's now in office on his third day, the beginning of his third day. And you tell me, well, it's after midnight. What do you want him to do? Stop a war after midnight? Yeah, actually, that's specifically one of the requirements constantly being bantered around in the public domain. Who's going to take the call at 3 a.m.? Well, it's only 1:19 in the morning, Donald. Why don't you get on the phone and tell your friend Vlad to stop invading Ukraine? Why don't you tell him to go home? Why don't you tell him, hey, man, I gave you 2 days of leeway to get out. Now all hell is going to break loose. Oh, you're not going to do that, are you? And you're not going to help NATO, an organization that the United States helped create, basically established, with its allies that won the war in World War II. And then the Russians formed the Warsaw Pact because, well, Stalin. And you're not going to tell Vlad to go home and leave a democratic, sovereign country alone, the country that he invaded for no good reason. It's not because of NATO expansion. Anybody who believes that, I don't know what to tell you. You clearly are not following history very well. When Ukraine gave up its nuclear arsenal, it got guarantees from both the United States and Russia that Russia would not invade it, and if it did, the United States and NATO would come to the aid of Ukraine. You remember that? Did you study that in high school? If you weren't old enough to remember it happening in real time? I remember it happening in real time. Russia violated that agreement time and time again. Russia violated that agreement when they invaded Crimea. Russia violated that agreement when they remained occupying forces in Crimea and Luhansk and all those areas, all the areas, all the little towns and villages that they've occupied for many years now. And Russia violated that agreement when they invaded or tried to invade the rest of Ukraine, starting almost 3 years ago. And the Trumpeteers, who don't seem to understand this fact about history, or any of these facts about history, will say, no, it's because he was afraid of your NATO expansion. What a hogwash that is. First of all, if that was true, well, then he's even more of a failure now than he was at the start of the war, isn't he? Because although Ukraine is not in NATO, it's getting a lot of protection from NATO members, if not NATO itself.
itself, but NATO members, the United States, the UK, France, Germany, a lot of countries are even Poland are donating weapons and things to Ukraine to help fight the Russians. So he failed in that count. And on top of that, you got now 2 new countries in NATO that were not members before. So now literally the borders of NATO, the border that borders Russia directly, is more than twice as big as it was at the beginning of the war. Putin caused that. No one else caused that. If Putin had not invaded, those countries would not have joined NATO. But they did because he did. You want a cause and relationship? There's your causal relationship right there. If Putin had not invaded Ukraine, there'd be less than half the length of Russian border against NATO border than there is today. He more than doubled the border size of NATO with Russia. So even if Ukraine joins now, it won't even come close to doubling the size of the NATO border that exists today. But he caused it to more than double. Putin did. So he's lying when he says he was worried about NATO encroaching on Russian territory. Because first of all, NATO has no interest in encroaching on Russian territory. The fact that NATO has just expanded and that it has more border with Russia, oh well, that's a geographical fact. Nothing they can do about the fact that their borders are where they are. And they happen to touch Russian borders. Hey, maybe Russia should give up land that borders NATO and create a buffer zone there of a few hundred miles, because Russia's enormous. It can, what does it care if it has a few hundred miles of buffer land? It doesn't need that land. It's mostly empty, right? And I'm sure it's mostly filled with N-words, and I think the kind that they said were in Ukraine, and R-words, the kind that they sent into Ukraine. Oh, you don't know about that? Yeah, no. The Russians claimed there were Nazis in Ukraine. Let me tell you something. There's Nazis, unfortunately, in a lot of countries. Yeah, you might find some in Ukraine. You're also going to find a lot more of them in Russia. Maybe you didn't find them in communist Russia as much, although there were some. They're certainly running around free Russia now with no compunction. They have festivals in Russia. You can go to literally Nazi festivals in Russia. Neo-Nazi festivals, whatever they're, like punk Nazis and neo-Nazis, all these crazy idiots who run around calling themselves Nazis. They exist in Russia. So this lie that they were going to invade a country that elected a president who happens to be Jewish, yes, a secular Jew, like me and many others, but still a Jew, right? They elected him president. And you're going to say that his country is a Nazi country? Do you not understand what Nazis are? Are you that stupid? Nazis are the ones who tried to kill all the Jews. Do I need to remind you? Yeah, that Russia that invaded that Ukraine, that Russia that has a lot of Nazis in its own right, in its own land, its leader lied and said there are Nazis that run Ukraine. No, there aren't Nazis that run Ukraine. There are surely some idiots running around Ukraine who are Nazis. Of that, I have no doubt. And if you look at the history of World War II, there are people in Ukraine who did horrible things on behalf of the Nazis, and many of them joined Nazi forces of one kind or another, volunteering themselves to participate in the Holocaust, in the genocide against the Jews and the Gypsies and the handicaps and the gays and anyone who's considered subhuman by the Nazi asshole scums. Yes, there were people in Ukraine who did horrible things 80 years ago, 85. There absolutely were. And some of them may still be alive today. Not many, but some. And yes, there are there are skinheads of various hate groups, including neo-Nazis and other types of Nazi-related schmucks in Ukraine today. Guaranteed there are. Are there enough of them to invade the country with the full forces of the Russian military? Considering how many more of them there are in Russia itself, and Russia hasn't bothered to invade itself or to take out all of those bad actors on its own territory. Why are they so concerned about the ones they say are in Ukraine? It's all lies and propaganda. And anybody who believes it, I'm sorry, but you're falling for the lies of a literally psychopathic chronic liar, Vladimir Putin. And the reason that people in America on the right went from not trusting Russia to all of a sudden, Russia's great, Russia's wonderful, and having idiots like Tucker Carlson prop up Vladimir Putin is because their God King cult leader told them so. Trump said, oh no, Vlad's great. He's a strong man. Oh, really? Really? He's a strong man? He's a dictator? Yeah, that doesn't make you strong, dude. Sorry, it doesn't. Just because you're at the head of a criminal enterprise does not mean you're a strong person. It just means you're the mob boss. That's all he is. No, but he rides his horse bareback. He's such a tough guy. He flexes his biceps and his chest. That makes him strong? Really? A little bit of homoerotic auto-portraiting? That makes him strong? Got it. I'll remember that the next time you call out the LGBTQIA plus community with your horrible, hateful, bigoted hate speech and actions. Like, it's really weird. So, also Bitcoin has not pumped to the moon. Oh. And in fact, mean reverted very nicely. Had more distributions. Mean reverted again. And at the moment, what it's doing is doing what it always does, and that's follow the VEPs. It moves along the VEPs and distributions and mean reversions. Right now, depending on the time frame, it's very tightly wound on the 15-minute and is set to move along very nicely. It's literally testing the top. It just tested the top of the central daily range. It's done it like twice now. And that central daily range, just so you know, it's not very tight, but it's under 2%. It's 1.57% of the asset's value, which means it is probably still going to be a trending day. We'll see. It is middle of the week. There's every probability that it'll be a trending day. And you can say the same, you can look at different assets. You'll see very similar things happening. Right? Solana yesterday had a bunch of distribution and mean reversion happening. Not a surprise. It was a fairly normal day in the world. In the world of Solana, it was a ranging day, and you could see it. It dumped down, went to that monthly range, rose back up above, went up to that 4-hour normal distribution range, and then dumped back down and ended not far above from where it started, right? Like a couple percent or whatever. It wasn't a significant. It was like literally 1% or something like that. The difference between start and finish on the day. But again, a lot more than 1% of action if you were trading low time frames. And at the moment after it started the new day by dumping out a little bit, in fact, on the day, it really did. That was like even it ended below. Yeah, I think it ended It ended at or below where it started the day before, like really close. Really close. I think it was up about 1%, but whatever. And then today, yeah, it rose up a little bit. Started like pretty much right at the top of the central daily range. Rose up a little bit to this 4-hour Laplace, and then the daily Laplace, and then dumped out, and then hit another 4-hour Laplace above, and then dumped out again, and is now right underneath that 4-hour Laplace, which is just, the 68.3 4-hour Laplace to the upside. So all in all, the VEPs are moving along just fine. The assets are moving along just fine. We're not seeing a massive Trump pump like you saw after the election. Gee, maybe he's pumping your own meme coins 2 days before your presidency takes place, and your wife's meme coin 1 day before the presidency takes place. The inauguration takes place. Maybe that's not such a good idea to grift your own backers and get millions of dollars from them and then rug pull them. Gee, maybe that's not a great idea. Maybe you're spreading more FOMO, more FUD about crypto. Gee, I wonder why. You say you want Bitcoin to be a reserve of the United States, but in action, in your previous term, you said and did the exact opposite. So I guess we'll see what actually happens this time around. So, it will be very interesting. Meanwhile, there's still a war in Ukraine. There's still a war between Israel and Hamas. There's no peace. There's still a war between Israel and Hezbollah. There's still a war between Israel and Iran. There's still a war between Israel and the Houthis. Wait, keep going. I am keeping going, my friend. So it's not like all of a sudden there's just peace breaking out all over the world because Trump is in town. No, that is not a thing. Unfortunately, Trump arriving into office does not bring peace with it. Now, I know he campaigned on that, and I know a lot of dupes fell for it, but show me where the peace is. What, Israel got 3 hostages home and had to release 99 terrorists with blood on their hands, and somehow we're supposed to feel good about that? That's peace? No, that's not peace. That is not peace. That is war by any other name. That's what happens in war, is you exchange hostages and prisoners during ceasefires. It's not what happens in peace. In peace, there are no more hostages and prisoners to exchange. You've already handed them back and forth. Less than 1 week, what did Biden-Harris do? Oh, I'm not saying Biden-Harris are great, my friend. But what I am saying is anybody who believed Trump and voted for Trump because he would bring peace, he was going to end the wars. Where's the fucking war ending, man? He lied, and the dupes and suckers that voted for him are idiots if they believed him. I don't believe any politician. Biden and Harris didn't promise me that they would end the war on day one or even before day one. They didn't promise that to me, did they? He did. And when he was challenged about the fact that, hey, if you can end it before day one, it's grossly irresponsible of you not to, he then said, oh, no, I'll end it on day one. And he was challenged about what plan he would do. He would never say that because he never had a plan, because he failed and he lied. And if you believed him, you believed a liar and you fell for it, and you're a sucker and you're a mark, and you're exactly the type of person that he would target with his next meme coin project. I hope to God you never fall for any of that grift he does to tens of millions of people every year. I'm not a fan of any politician, left, right, or center. And understand, I don't hate Trump particularly more or less than any other politician. I really don't. In fact, I could argue globally, I hate him a lot less than I hate a lot of other politicians. Yeah, Elon Musk saluting Oh, it was a Roman salute. It wasn't a Nazi salute. Who gives a shit? Honestly, whichever salute it was a fascist salute. And if you want to say it wasn't, okay, let's sweep that under the rug. Are you going to tell me there aren't more fascists on X today than there were before he took over? Free speech. It's not free speech. You literally have to pay to get attention on X, to get impressions and views and clicks and engagement. You have to pay for that. You got to pay for your verified badge. There's literally no way for a regular account to get exposure on X. It algorithmically is not going to happen. They will suppress it unless you're like licking his balls. Okay? Then maybe. And even then, not so much. I forget the name of the person. There's literally a person who does not stop glazing that boy, who's like a member of the trans community, and Elon hates that person. And this person loves Elon and defends him full bore. Bends out of his or her way, every which way possible to defend what he's doing. And was writing this practical dissertation of symbolism. All he was doing, you have to differentiate between the symbols of the Roman salute versus the Nazi salute. No, you don't. No, you don't. First of all, Elon's the richest man on earth. What the fuck is he doing that thing? He ought to know better. Why? Well, because fanboys of his assume that he's smart. So if he's smart, he shouldn't be making that kind of a stupid mistake, should he? Oh, but he's on the spectrum. He could be making a slip up. Really? Well, then maybe he shouldn't be speaking at the fucking inauguration, giving that kind of a rousing speech, and then throwing that kind of a hand gesture at the audience. Not once in front of him, but he turned around and did it so that the backside could see as well. Oh, you didn't see that part? No, yeah, he did it a second time. So again, I'm not a fan of Biden. I'm not a fan of Harris. When people tell me they're the biggest criminals ever, where's the fucking evidence? For years and years, the Republicans had committee after committee investigating the Biden crime family. They came away with nada, nothing, zip, nothing, zilch. Jim Jordan, not a fan of Biden, had to admit there was nothing. He was in charge of the committee investigating Biden. Witness after witness came away saying, yeah, the guy's not a criminal. When they had the star witness come up, he told them, yeah, Biden talks to his son about the weather. He calls us when we're having dinner together, and he asks us how his son is, how he's doing, reacting and coping with the loss of his other son, Bo, and literally asking him about things like the weather. Wow, that's so criminal. He lent his brother a few $1,000 once that his brother repaid. Wow, so criminal to lend your family member money and then they repay you. What? So like every single person in America who's ever lent any money to their family is a criminal? No. Literally, they had nothing. They would have impeached him the moment they had anything. If you don't understand that, you're an idiot. Politically, you might be super smart in your field. I'm not saying you're not. You might be fucking genius, but that doesn't mean politically you're very intelligent. It's politics. I don't believe politics. By the way, I'm not saying Biden is some innocent saint. I'm not saying that at all. I've met the guy. He's a decent guy. I've met Trump. He's a decent guy. Way back in the 90s, I met them. Decent people. I was a lobbyist at the time. Ooh, a dirty lobbyist. Yes, I was a lobbyist once. A long, long time ago in this galaxy. I don't hate these politicians. I'm saying they all lie, cheat, and steal. That is part of their job description. So am I critical of politicians? Yes. Am I critical of all politicians? Yes. Are there worse politicians than American politicians? Hell yeah. Assad, the dictator of Syria, who got thrown out of his power last month, thank goodness, was a total scumbag and a mass murderer and a genocidal maniac, just like his father was. They were much worse politicians, and they lied, cheated, and steal more than most. Who can I speak kindly on in politics? I don't. Their job is to be skewered by the public for all the lies they tell, for all the failure that they deliver. They overpromise and underdeliver. Here's a question. Y'all really think, hello, Bunny, y'all really think Elon would have done that being as smart as he is? How many rockets have y'all built? My point exactly. He's smarter than all of us put together. There's no shot he would do a... Okay, Bunny. So what was that salute? And again, let's sweep it under the rug. Let's say, okay, all of that, put aside the salute. Say it doesn't matter. It's just a stupid gesture in a moment. He was doing the Sammy Sosa salute. My heart goes out to you. And then he extended his fingers accidentally and happened to put them in the Nazi salute position or the Roman salute position. Who cares? Put it all under the rug. Let's pretend he never did that, Bunny. First of all, he didn't build the rockets. His engineers built the rockets. He's the CEO. He's the cheerleader. If you don't know that, then I guess you don't know what a CEO is. A CEO is a cheerleader for their company. Their job is to go out and raise money from investors if they need it, or to make the company be known in the world by appearing in the various business trade shows and news shows and talk shows and newspapers and magazines and TV shows, etc. That is the role of a CEO, to manage the organization. Yes, legally, fiscally, they have to manage actually, technically, CEOs don't even have to do that. Normally, at least in the United States, it's the president of the company that is legally and fiduciarily responsible, because normally in incorporation documents, you need to have a chairman, a president, and a secretary. That's really all you need. All the other titles, CEO, COO, CTO, CMO, all those things, they're just titles. They practically mean nothing, unless those people happen to hold fiduciary roles. And I don't know why you think he's so smart. But let's pretend that he is so smart. Then you so jaded, your voice is mute. Oh, I'm so jaded, my voice is... Oh, I see. So because I don't believe the lies of politicians, my voice is mute? No, Atlas. If you believe politicians who've done nothing but lie, cheat, and steal for thousands of years, then you're so ignorant that you are one of the sheeple. I don't believe politicians. They all lie, cheat, and steal. It is part of their job description. That doesn't mean I hate them. I do not hate all politicians. I accept that they lie, cheat, and steal. There we go. I think he's very socially awkward. Yes, he is. There was a point in time he even asked one of his secretaries to have a baby with him. Yes, that's true. Allegedly. Not even allegedly, according to many, many people who worked with him. And he did it frequently, by the way, at parties and things. He's just socially not so intelligent. Yes, he's socially awkward. And you can say it's because he's on the spectrum. Fine. Then he shouldn't be doing things in public that are going to make his companies look worse. What does this say here? You wrote here, Baller wrote, he knows how to attract attention and run a business. Yes, he does know how to attract attention and make a public display of his companies. I wouldn't say he knows how to run a business, but he's very good at making his companies become bigger and have value on the market. That is true. That's why he does what he does. That's what he's great at. He knows how to hire smart people and create his vague ideas. Absolutely. He knows how to hire people and to deliver something that will convince investors to put more money into his companies. But he utterly fails to actually deliver on his big promises. We're not yet on Mars. He said we would be already, like with people, right? The Tesla Roadster, still not delivered. He sold those things for $250,000 a piece, and people are still waiting on those things like 9 years later off of his schematics. Yes, exactly. He's very good at hiring very smart people and then working them to the bone. He's also very good at firing very good people and then letting whoever remains, who happens to be, for the most part, immigrants on H-1B visas, which is, I'm okay with that. But he works them to the bone too, because he knows that they don't want to lose their job and they'll do anything to keep their job. Because otherwise they have to go back to their home country, and they don't want to do that. If nobody can be trusted, why trust you? Am I asking you to trust me? Bro, I live by the Bitcoin motto. Don't trust, verify. Okay? I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm just speaking the truth. You don't like it? You don't have to watch. Goodbye. Baller, my left nutsack could make a schematic that Elon has made. Exactly. I mean, draw the Cybertruck. Any 4-year-old has done it. Bunny, that's understandable, but he's been on enough talk shows and has shown his wild intelligence. Yeah, look, Elon is very intelligent in some respects. He's very good at being a cheerleader. He's an excellent cheerleader, or was. I mean, you could still argue he still is, for whatever he wants to cheerlead. He's really good at it. That's why he bought Twitter. He realized it would be an amazing soapbox. And I said that when he first said, I'll buy Twitter, before he actually owned it. I said it actually would be a great soapbox for him, a great PR machine. It's worth the money, whatever he pays. He ended up paying $44 billion, which was more than twice as much as the company had been theoretically valued at. And yet he still bought it, and he still made a lot of money. Look, just by paying $44 billion, he made $100 billion when Trump got elected in the valuation of his stock going up, of all his stocks in different companies, whatever. So it was worth it. He made more than twice as much as it cost him in less than 2 years' time of owning Twitter. Worth it financially, not necessarily worth it politically, in my opinion, or culturally, but that's another story, and it doesn't matter. That's precisely my point. He was a terrible pick. Great guy, just again, not so intelligent socially. Yeah, I don't know if he's a great guy. Ask any of his ex-wives what they think of him. Atlas, changing direction. Elon did aerospace better and cheaper than NASA. No, he did not do aerospace better and cheaper than NASA. That is just not true. He got a lot of money from the federal government, and he was supposed to deliver plans for his rockets to Mars last year, after like many rounds of funding that were over and beyond what he was originally planning to do. And what he delivered was literally 1%. Don't believe me. Hey, go look at the Thunderfoot videos and go look at other videos that criticize the Thunderfoot videos about that. Nobody refutes the fact that Musk delivered what was on the scale of what he was supposed to deliver at the 1% level. He delivered 1% of what he was supposed to deliver by 2024. That's what he delivered, 1%. You think that's better than NASA? It's not better than NASA. NASA actually has less than 0.5% of the United States budget. And yet the things they have discovered and the things they have invented as a result of existing, which have impacted all of our lives day to day, I will just point you to Velcro. Do you ever use Velcro? Very common thing. People tend to use it a lot. Invented by a French inventor for the American space program in the 60s. Did you know that? Monsieur Velcro, Mr. Velcro, invented Velcro. He also reinvented EV without government subsidy. That is just not true. When he was the best option prior to was approached. That is just not true. I'm sorry. First of all, he didn't invent the Tesla. You know that, right? He came in as a big investor, and he was the biggest money bag. That's why he got the co-founder title and the CEO title, and he forced out the inventors of Tesla. And he took government money, a lot of it, in the United States. And yes, he repaid them, but he took government money. Don't say that he didn't, because that's just not true. Could you explain more? I'm an open-minded guy, and you're starting to open my eyes a little. Hey, man, listen, I'm not a hater. I don't hate Elon. I don't hate Trump. I don't hate Harris. I don't hate Biden. I don't hate Clinton. I don't hate Bush. I don't hate Obama. I don't hate the other Bush. I don't hate Reagan. I don't hate Carter. I don't hate. Okay? Now, are there things that I do hate in the world? Well, there are things I certainly find disgusting and evil. You want to call it hate? Fine. Like what? Like terrorists. Right? I live in northern Israel at the moment, and we got a problem with terrorists. I'm not a fan of theirs. I wish they would be no longer.
terrorists,
if they would lay down their arms and say, hey, let's have peace, I'm all for that. If they've committed heinous crimes, you can serve your time or do whatever's necessary. But I'm not going to love somebody who's a heinous criminal. What are we smoking? Medicine. Literally medicine, unfortunately. I have been victimized by the wars that I live in and other things. And there you go. Sometimes I need some medicine. He lands rockets ready for redeploy within 30 minutes. Improved from an ocean landing and recovery. Okay, listen. Yes, by the way, NASA also had rockets that it could redeploy. They tested, if you remember the Little Joe rockets or Little Joe 2, go look those up. They caught rockets with nets. Yes, they weren't as fancy as the arm grabby thing, whatever, but they caught rockets in the 70s or 60s or even the late 50s when they were building up the Mercury program. 2022, Elon wasn't even invited to the EV conference. Oh, I completely agree. When Biden did not invite him to the EV conference, that was a complete fuck up by Biden. I'm not defending Biden. I'm not here to be some Biden fanboy because I'm not. I'm critical of him too. He failed to deliver many things. Like what? He failed to deliver when in America you have a baby, you don't get leave, paid leave. That's something that 80% or more of the American public supports, and yet he didn't make it a law. He failed to completely legalize, the use of marijuana for recreational purposes or whatever, federally. He failed a lot of things. He failed to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which he could have done. That is also very popular. The only people who don't like that are the people who own businesses and the people who are fanboys of people who own businesses. Oh, that's going to hurt the job market. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. That's a complete lie. It's just greedy people at the very top of the pyramid don't want the have-nots to have more. There is no left-right division, people. It's a have versus have-not division. That's it. There is no left-right division in reality. Culture wars are manufactured by TV networks to get ratings and to satisfy their advertisers. They're fake. They're manufactured. They're a distraction from the real division, which is haves versus have-nots. Baller. Yasha, I don't think you understand. This was exactly what I was looking for right now. It's hard to find people who are willingly... Oh, I'm willingly open to talk about this. I do understand you're willingly open. I'm smoking so much medicine right now, too. I'm soothed. I'm glad you're enjoying medicine. I hope it does good things for you. And I'm not smoking a lot of medicine. I use extremely small amounts of medicine, relatively. And not often, but when I actually need it. I do understand. I am open-minded. I'm not critical of criticism. But if you think that politicians are not lying to you, I'm not saying you are, but there are people in here who have made comments where clearly they think that politicians are, not lying. I'm not falling for politicians. Politicians are liars and cheaters and thieves and scoundrels. That is literally the nicest things I can say about them. Again, it's part of their job description. I got a Johnny in here. Hey, buddy. What's a Johnny, you might ask? Well, if you know, you know. Yeah. A little... Anyway, guys and girls, men and women, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get going.
I'd be happy to continue this discussion another day, but I would like to remind you all, it is day 3 of the Trump presidency, and the big promise that he made in international affairs, beyond the Israel-Hamas Gaza situation, was ending the war in Ukraine on day 1. We're now day 3 of his presidency, and the war rages on. So that is an outright lie. And people fell for it. Not everybody. A lot of people recognized he was lying. I would even say a lot of Republicans who voted for him knew that that was a lie. But they defended it. They claimed it would happen. Oh, he's going to bring peace. Bro, it's day 3. Ain't no peace in Ukraine. He promised it. It wasn't like he was mincing words. I could end the war in 24 hours before being president. Then why don't you? It sounds bloody criminal that you're not ending the war. It sounds really horrific that you're allowing people to die in a needless war if you have some magical power to stop it. Of course he couldn't stop it when he wasn't president, and of course he can't stop it now in 24 hours. The best thing he can do is to continue to support a democracy against a dictator. A democracy that, by the way, is a friend of the United States and is a friend of most of the free world, if not all of the free world. And yes, there's corruption in Ukraine. I'm not going to defend Ukraine and say, oh, it's 100% pure angels country. They're human beings, just like every other country on earth. They're made of human beings. So, of course, there are corrupt people in Ukraine. There are corrupt people in every country. But that doesn't mean that Russia should have the right to invade, which, by the way, Russia is also extremely corrupt, in case you didn't know. Russia should not have the right to invade its neighbor for no reason, just because it wants to expand its lands to recreate the glory days of the old Soviet Union. Putin should fuck off and go back to Russia. He should be politically ended. But he should certainly leave Ukraine. If the Russians want to keep them as their leader, that's their problem. If they don't have the balls to get rid of him, that's their problem. But respect to the Ukrainians for standing up to that asshole and not putting up with his garbage and not just saying, okay, we're just going to bow down and revere you, oh master. No, Ukrainians want their freedom. They're sick and tired of being overlorded by the invasive Russian people. By the way, it's not the people of Russia necessarily that support the war against Ukraine. But it's, the breadbasket of Europe, 100%. Ukraine is a very vitally important country, not just for Europe, by the way, for food delivery around the world, grain around the world, right? Africa, Asia. These continents depend largely on deliveries of grain from Ukraine. It is really a very important country, just like the United States is an important country for grain. Ukraine and the United States are both vitally important for grain for people around the world. And Russia just wants that because they're upset that they don't have it anymore. And they'll give you whatever excuse they can. And when I say Russia, I mean Putin. Maybe, obviously, many Russian people support Putin, but I'm not talking about the average Russian person here. I'm talking about Putin, who is the dictator of Russia. You can call him the president all you want. He's a dictator. You're going to tell me he really won like 98% of the vote in a free and fair election in Russia? You really believe they have free and fair election in Russia since Putin took over? Give me a break. Anyway. It was a little bit of a politicians of any stripe, of any country, or jurisdiction. I don't believe them. Sorry. If you think I'm too jaded, oops, I'm jaded. Well, I'm jaded for a reason, because I have my eyes open and I'm aware of what these people do. I worked in politics long enough to know lying, cheating, and stealing is part of their job. If you don't understand that, I beseech thee
to go and learn a bit about politics and how it works, and how in different countries and different societies, politics is a little bit different, but it's basically the same. And yes, there are some places that are better than others in terms of politics, and there are some places that are worse than others in terms of politics. There is a spectrum of good and bad, and there's a lot of flavors along the way. And you don't have to be an extremist. You can be a centrist politician and still be a liar, a cheater, and a stealer. A stealer? A thief. Steelers are those football players. Go Steelers. Or whatever team you like. So that's going to do it for now. I'll come back later and talk a bit more about the markets. But I just have to mention all this stuff because, honestly, all the fanboying of either political side in the U.S. right now is ridiculous. I don't care if you're a Trump fan. I don't care if you're a Harris fan. I don't care if you're a Biden fan or a Democrat or Republican. You're kidding yourself if you think that being on left or right teams is the solution. It's not. You're dividing the country by doing that. The United States is going through a period of time when it has shifted long ago into an oligarchy owned by corporations and the people that own those corporations. And it is literally a battle of the haves and the have-nots. That's all it is. If you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. What do I think of the whole? I already spoke about that, Larry, earlier in the video. I think more importantly than Elon doing an idiotic salute at the wrong time in the wrong place, let's pretend he didn't do that salute. Are there more bad people on X right now than there were when X had a censorship team in place that was actually actively blocking extremists from the left and the right? And you could say, well, they were mostly blocking people from the right. Maybe they were blocking mostly people from the right. Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe because the hate speech coming from the extremists on the right was worse than the hate speech coming from the people on the left. I don't know. I didn't run their censorship team. And obviously, if you tend to be conservative more, you will tend to think that they were blocking more people from the left than the right. And now you think, well, it's payback. It's not about payback. It's about finding real balance. And he does not want balance. He wants to use X as a soapbox to further his agenda, which is to make more money by getting more government subsidies, which is all he really does. That's his master stroke. He could teach a master class in that for sure. And B, by getting other attention from private investors, which he's also incredibly good at, but not quite as good as the subsidies. Let's just be honest about that. Because the subsidies enable him to get the rest of the money. He just views this as a way to, and let's be honest, Elon was not exactly raised with an open liberal mindset. He might pretend that I was a Democrat and I was a left, liberal, but the left moved away from me, and now I'm more on the right because the left moved away from me. No, he was the son of parents who grew up in apartheid South Africa. He was raised the son of an extremely wealthy family. They had literally coffers of money in their houses, like safes full of money, so full they could not close them. Those are his words. He said that in a speech, not a speech, on a panel where he was speaking with his brother and some moderator about life in the Musk family. He didn't deny that. It was him saying that. Telling people, yeah, we weren't poor. We had coffers with money we couldn't even close. He said that. Okay, so I don't hate the guy for being wealthy. I don't hate the rich. I'm all for actual capitalism. The problem is we don't actually have capitalism in the world. We have extremely highly regulated markets that are not representative of capitalism. And they're not socialism either. They are corporatism. They are rules that favor the rich, not rules that favor the meritocracy. They are not rules that favor those who work hard or work well to create things and make a lot of money. They're just not. Oh, but what about Apple and Facebook and all these other great inventions? There are 300 and something million Americans. You think only a few thousand of them have come up with great inventions in the last few decades? No. It's just that those who have keep the money within the haves. So they're not going to fund all the great ideas from the have-nots. Only those that get through, that are lucky, who happen to get picked because they have a great idea and they're willing to play the game of the haves, they manage to break through, and then they become one of the haves, and they got picked for a reason because they're willing to play the game. Very, very, very few, if any, of the have-nots who become part of the haves ever actually stand up for the have-nots throughout the rest of their lives. It doesn't happen. Yeah, the dude does have a massive ego, Larry. Elon has a massive ego, 100%. I don't hate him for having an ego. I don't hate people for their motivations or their ambitions. I don't. I just don't. I'm just realistic, and I have my eyes open that is what it is. And I call it out when people want to fanboy that shit. And it's the fanboying that is sickening. People believing the lies of the haves. Why do you believe the lies of the haves? I'm not saying you do, but to the people who do. Why does anybody believe the lies of the haves? Why is everybody so, I'm left team, I'm right team, I'm blue all the way, I'm red all the way? Bro, you're just playing into the hands of the people who intentionally divide you. The old Roman saying, divide and conquer, is very much alive and well in modern Western society. In the United States, in Europe, in Asia, and even in parts of Africa and South America, where there's relatively Western values in certain countries. The division between the haves and the have-nots, by the way, the division between the haves and the have-nots is alive and well, really in the whole world. But even in countries that are supposed to be above that, they're not. The world is still divided between the haves and the have-nots. You may not like it, but it's a fact. On that note, guys, I got to end this. So, talk to you guys later. Thanks for joining. If you like what I rant about, or if you hate it, hey, give me a subscribe so you can hear more about what I rant about. And like it. If you hate it, like it 3 times. Or leave a comment or whatever. Do that thing that people who make YouTube videos tell people who watch YouTube videos to do, so that the YouTube algorithms can get this stuff shown to more people, and I can grow my little following. And and I don't think of you as a following. I can grow the number of people that watch my videos. Yeah, you stay safe, brother, too. Fortunately, where I live right now, we haven't had any complaint cylinders flying at us from the north for about a month and a week, a month and a half. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, that ceasefire will be completed, and the Hezbollah will be north of the Litani River, and the IDF forces will be all back in Israel, and we can actually start to have the establishment of something that might turn into a real peace. Am I hopeful that it will? Yes. Am I optimistic that it will? No. I'm realistic that it's going to be broken at some point. The Hezbollah still exists, and they still exist for one purpose only, and that's to destroy Israel and kill every single person that lives in this country, regardless of who they are. That's what they want to do. They want to set fire to this whole country and kill all of us and destroy this whole nation. Same with Hamas. They said that's what they're going to do. I don't trust them. Why would I? You'd be insane to trust people that are going to tell you and show you, I'm trying to kill you. That's their whole mission. And I'm not going to defend them. I'll do everything I can to get rid of them. And make the people that supposedly support them change their ways and support peace instead, living side by side in peace and prosperity. That's what I want. That's what most people in Israel that I know want. Almost everyone. There are extremist crazies who don't want that. Yes. And we don't let them take control of the government. There are more of us who are reasonable in this country who don't want extremists, like real extremists, to run the government. And you could say Bibi's an extremist, whatever. He's not. He's a centrist right-winger, just like Trump is a centrist right-winger. For political reasons. If it was serving his interest to be a centrist left-winger, guess what? He'd be a centrist left-winger too. So, I'll talk to you guys later. Stay safe. Peace. Love you all. Bye.